We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it will be Thursday, but I'm recording it Wednesday night. And I'm also doing a Substack live. It's been a while since I've been on Substack doing a live, and I really needed to come back here because I enjoy talking to all the folks that show up. They're very important to doing this kind of thing because their input is invaluable. I expect it, I count on it, and I appreciate it. So, you folks coming in now, get ready. We're going to talk a little bit. And what do you imagine we might talk about? Well, I'll remind you that I live in Minnesota, place where we had the George Floyd tragedy. I also live in Minnesota, the same Minnesota that just had this tragedy today. If you're listening on the podcast yesterday, we know what happened. There was ICE agents in South Minneapolis, probably about 6 blocks from where George Floyd was murdered, probably about a mile and a half from where I grew up, so I'm very familiar with the area. Uh, we got ICE out there going after God knows what. There is no coordination with local police or the government or anything like that. They just go in willy-nilly and go rogue on any fucking street they decide to go to. So, they go into this street. There's a woman in a car. She's protesting, essentially, because a lot of people were protesting. And make no mistake, this was a peaceful protest. Well, ICE tells her to get the fuck out of the way, and she's going to do that and try to get out of the way. But one guy says, hey, no, she may have said something that pissed him off or hurt his minuscule ego to match his minuscule penis. And he said, get out of the car, and she took off anyway. So they thought the logical answer to that problem is to shoot her in the face multiple times. Now, Kristi Noem comes out and says, well, it's a domestic terrorist, and the weather was really bad. The weather was beautiful here today. It's 41 degrees. There was no weather issues. This woman was not a domestic terrorist. She didn't drive into anybody. Kristi Noem even went as far as to say the shooter ended up in the hospital. No, he didn't. I watched the fucker on video drive away in his own car under his own power. He was fine. The woman was in the car. She's shot multiple times, probably dead. She had a passenger with her. Now, this is where it gets even more fucked up. They don't have a stretcher. They don't have anybody there to attend to her like they should. They drag her out of the car by her arms, and she's probably already dead. They're laying her down someplace, and a doctor says, hey, I'm a physician. Let me check her pulse. I said, no, we're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. We've got people coming. You can't check her pulse. This woman has been shot multiple times. Not only did they shoot her illegally, but they won't let her get assistance. And apparently when the ambulance came, they even blocked that for a time. These people are the worst of the worst. The scum of the earth, the scourge of this earth. And Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, and everybody that ever voted for Donald Trump, you all have motherfucking blood on your hands. You voted for this. You got this. And this may have been the thing that breaks the camel's back. We got some questions. Jose says, hi, Boomer. I'm pissed off at what happened in Minnesota. Yeah, I think a lot of people are pissed off. James says, I've been waiting for you to go live all night. Yeah, it's funny. I would have been out here earlier, but another creator on TikTok and Substack here was in town. He said, hey, I'd like to meet you. Name is Richard Green. You probably seen him here on Substack. So I had dinner with him and his companion, and it was fun. It was great. He was a great guy. So I would have been out here earlier if not for that. Horseman says, has the guy been arrested? No. And that's my question. We have this incident. Clearly, it's a murder. There's video showing that it was a murder. The Minneapolis police come into town, and they're trying to protect the ICE from getting decimated by the people who just watched them kill somebody in cold blood. They protected them. The guy who did the shooting got in the car and took off. Was there any arrest? No. That's my question to Jacob Frey, the mayor of this town of Minneapolis. Why are you protecting the ICE, watching a guy commit murder, and then leave? Why is that? I can explain more of what's gonna go on with that, and you're not gonna like it, but, they keep telling us no one's above the law. Well, clearly, there are plenty of people above the law. The president, members of Congress, the administration, members of ICE, they're all above the law, so don't ever tell me that fucking story again. Spacer says, "Did you see Donald Trump's response to the murder? He called her an agitator." Oh, of course he did. Of course he did. I'm gonna tell you something right now. This may have been a very dangerous thing for ICE. People say, "Is he going to be arrested?" Yes, he could be arrested by the Minneapolis legal system. He could. But then it goes to the DOJ, and they can dismiss it if they want to, and they most certainly would in this circumstance. They would never admit guilt. So arresting him may not be able to do anything because the Fed will just let the fucker go. They've done it before, and they'll do it again. But what we need to do is expose that motherfucker. There's pictures out there. We need to expose it everywhere. If we can't get him convicted, if we can't get him put in jail, let's ruin his reputation throughout the country, throughout the world for that matter. I have no sympathy for that stupid motherfucker. Vincent Johnny, so white people have their own George Floyd moment. Yeah. And you make a good point, and I will say this. I wonder if this person who got shot today had been an immigrant or a woman of color, would there be as much hubbub? I don't know that there would. In Minnesota, probably, but in other places, no. You see, you have to understand, people are acting like this is the first time ICE has done something like this. It's not. Did you know in 2025, there were 32 people died while in custody or at the hands of ICE? There were 9 shootings in the last year by ICE. Remember that woman in Chicago that got shot? The only difference between those and this one, much like George Floyd, this motherfucker's on videotape, and it's gonna be impossible to deny. This may be a breaking point for a lot of people. I would think there's gotta be some Republicans that have a shred of integrity, a shred of decency, and are going to be, um, be angry about this. Um, I should only be armed with rubber bullets. They shouldn't have guns at all. These people aren't trained. They're picking up any fuckhead off the street and putting them in this uniform and giving them a gun. Yeah, I did hear about rubber bullets in the past. I have to wonder why that wasn't the case today. Make no mistake, these motherfucking bullets were real, and they were devastating. Every motherfucker that voted for this regime is responsible for this murder. I will agree with you there. Donald Trump, his campaign in this United States makes him a murderer. Million people died of COVID, and he refused to do anything that a president might do. He's blowing up boats in the Caribbean, fishing boats. Over 100 people have died in that situation. He goes and bombs Venezuela. 100+ people die in that situation. Donald Trump's got blood all over his hands, and anybody that supports Donald Trump is complicit with murder, pedophilia, sexual assault, corruption, criminality, grift. All you motherfuckers are responsible. I've said that before. There isn't a Republican that I could have any sympathy for because they've been complicit with this. You may not think of yourself as bad as Donald Trump, but you've allowed this to happen, and you are now responsible. Stewart says, correct, MAGA, all accessory and accomplice to all Trump-related deaths. I agree completely. Spacer says, I hope every blue state governor finally takes the hint and takes action. Tim Walz was the only one with the guts to deploy National Guard before Trump could seize the opportunity or whatever stupid shit he may want to try. Well, Tim Walz made a good point. National Guard in Minnesota, they are Minnesotans, and they are there to protect Minnesota. And I've said this before, states should put them in place before Donald Trump does so that they can do what they're supposed to do and protect the citizens of this country from the menace, the criminals, the murderers that are ICE. Shelley says it's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, I can't even tell you how disgusting it is. If you saw the video, it was horrific. And there are more videos after the fact. I didn't look at those because it's not what this country is made of. And because of Republicans in this country, this is why we are where we are. There's going to come a time when Donald Trump chokes to death on a Big Mac, a fish fillet, and a quarter pounder with cheese with fries, and shit his pants, and he will be no more. After that happens, there's going to be a lot of shit that comes out, and there's going to be a lot of exposure, and there's going to be people saying, who's accountable for this? And I can tell you very clearly who's accountable for this. It's every Republican in Congress. These people had the opportunity at any moment in time to stop this. They could stop it. They were either complicit with it, they were either supportive of it, or they were terrified. They're cowards. But when this is all said and done, and you want to know why we have the problems we have here, fucking Republicans, every one of them. Michigan Fire retired LEO here. That was an execution. Untrained morons out there committing murder. You're absolutely right. Over and above the cruelty of it all, I'm not a law enforcement officer, never have been, uh, but this was clearly people that weren't trained, didn't know what they were doing, and because of it, somebody dies. Absolutely incompetence. That's top to bottom with the Trump organization. Jose says, can they do it on a local level? Sure, they can do it. But the feds can undo it then. You can do it. That's why the only thing you can really do there will be a civil suit, I would imagine. There can be money grabbed out of it. But if we can't put them in jail, we need to expose them. Cancel those motherfuckers in a way they never thought they could be canceled. They've got a picture of the guy that did it, a full face picture of it. And if it's spread all across the country and he's labeled as a murderer, let's see how his life goes. Maybe we get Tizzy on TikTok and track that motherfucker down. Trevor Lee says Trump and his entire administration plus Noam should be at The Hague. Well, you never know. That may happen. Spacer says, wish Omar I don't know how to pronounce his last name, was mayor of Minneapolis. Also, I really hope Democrats, especially in leadership, don't try to both sides this or remain silent. Though Hakeem and Schumer have been radio silent on all the current issues Trump has been committing. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if we're talking about establishment politicians, Democrats particularly, they're going to try to play the bipartisan both sides of the issue. Those motherfuckers need to be gone. We've got an election coming up in less than a year. They need to go. They need to be gone. They aren't doing us any favors. They're costing us money. They are part and parcel responsible for why we are in this situation because they sat there with their thumbs up their ass. I agree. They got to go. John Joseph says, and they wonder why ICE is hated. I will tell you this, when this is all said and done, and Donald Trump is no longer the president, somebody else is the president, somebody else is the attorney general, they've got to completely disband and dissolve ICE completely. It will never get credibility back. People will want the head of anybody who runs that organization and will want it dissolved. Spacer says they need to abolish ICE, a Bush-era failure of an organization. They do need to abolish it, but here's the thing. Not going to happen until Democrats get control. So that's up to us. Make sure no Republicans get elected, Democrats get elected, and then we take this fucker over and try to straighten it out and get rid of ICE. Was he wearing a camera? I don't know, but there were plenty of cameras that showed a lot of what was going on. The important thing to understand is he claimed that she was trying to ram him. But at the time he was shooting her, he was on the side of the car. The wheels were turned away from him. There's no way he was in danger. You can say whatever you want. You can try to gaslight, but the fucking video is there. They talk about investigations. Not much of an investigation needed. We can see the video. We've got a couple different angles of it. What he did was at best incompetent and at worst murder. Um, Eric, the analytical Iowan, says Trump will be the downfall of the Republicans. The House Republicans are talking about impeachment or Kristi Noem. Yeah, at the very least, get rid of her. But she ain't the problem. You got to cut the head off the snake. And that snake is Donald Trump. Michigan Fire, ICE, incompetent, coward, egomaniacs. Absolutely. They're dumb fucks. They're losers. People who couldn't become police officers, or people just picked off the street because they're running low on people to join ICE. Gnome should be upside down, actually, Dimension X. Yeah. There should be a law where state National Guards can only be deployed federally only through congressional approval. Well, I think that's the case. Just like everything else Donald Trump does. He doesn't listen to Congress. He doesn't listen to rule of law. There's got to be, at the very least, an agreement with the governor to deploy National Guard federally. From 1994 till now, I have seen 9/11, the war on terror, multiple wars, a pandemic, and now I see the fall of NATO. If the Trump administration militarily takes Greenland, then Canada is next. I don't honestly think he's going to get away with even doing something like that. I think the people around him even understand that. Do you think Europe is going to allow that to happen? Do you think Denmark is going to allow that to happen? Donald Trump and the military, if they so decide to do something as illegal as that, in spite of their oath, they are going to see pushback like you've never seen before, to coin a phrase from Donald Trump. We can't get the bump-ass Republicans to impeach that fool. He hasn't got a clue what is happening in America. No, he doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point the Republicans impeach him, but they haven't shown much integrity up to this point, so who's to say? Not everybody that voted for Trump is No, everybody that voted for Trump is responsible, but anybody who supports him now is responsible and should be held accountable. I can't agree with you any more than that, John. Stewart says, sorry, you're wrong. Stewart, sorry, he's not. Everybody. Everybody. You got to understand, these Republicans, these MAGA fucks are like cancer. If you don't cut it all out, it will metastasize. We've got a cult of personality. We got people that are mentally ill that still follow this. You got to cut them all out. I should be dissolved, absolutely. BS, there's no ramming there, complete bullshit. Yeah, or even our mayor, who I didn't think swore, agrees with that. This will also bite the Republicans in the ass even more than they already did in Minnesota. Words to remember: Trump always fucks up. Yeah, that's exactly right. He always fucks up. Let's see here. Cut the head off of Donald Trump, then we can get control and pull the roots out of these annoying weeds. I agree with you. That's the first step. It's impossible to fix all the problems we've got, so we've got to do something with the biggest problem. He's got to be impeached, 25th Amendment. He's got to choke on a Big Mac. I don't give a fuck, but he's got to go. All government, state, or federal agents need to wear cameras. Well, I think they do. It's a matter of, do they fucking turn them on? If they're going to do something bad, they're not going to turn them on. Eric says, I'm expecting huge changes to the presidency after Trump is gone. Yeah, there better be some huge changes. These guardrails and these norms have to be stopped. There needs to be fucking laws, and presidents need to be um, responsible for the shit they do. They don't get a free ride. Gina says it's surprising it's gone this far. I will agree with you there. I said after he was elected, he'll do some fucked up stuff, but the Republicans will never allow to go this far. Well, fuck me. I was wrong. These cowardly fucks have allowed it to get out of hand, get out of control. It's an embarrassment to this country. This country has never been more dangerous. We've got the economy, we've got everything. The Republicans, this is why I say when it's all said and done, when you want somebody to blame, it's every fucking Republican. I'll put it to you this way. Somebody said not all people who voted for Trump are bad. If you voted for Donald Trump in 2016, I'll give you a pass. If you voted for Donald Trump in 2020, you're part of the problem. If you voted for him in 2024, you are complicit with every crime he commits. Stephen Miller needs to be stopped. Yeah, this creepy, socially awkward piece of shit, he does need to be stopped. He has too much control over Donald Trump because Donald Trump is a weak-minded motherfucker that's easily manipulated, and Stephen Miller knows how to do it. But when do we or anyone else in the world shut this down? The Democrats will keep telling you in 2026 we got to get the power back. We can shut this down. Yeah, that's true. But the fucking barn is burning to the ground right now. We need to stop it now. And unfortunately, because of the way people voted, and because they gave Republicans control of the House and the Senate, it's going to have to be the Republicans that shut it down. And then it's a matter of do they have the courage or the balls to fucking do it? Or are they so complicit that they will just let it continue? James says Stephen Miller is pulling Trump's strings. Donald is too dumb to come up with these hateful tactics. I agree with you. Donald Trump is stupid. He's an emotional wreck. He's a reactionary. He just says and does things, pulls it out of his ass. He is obviously manipulated by not only Stephen Miller, but pretty much anybody around him. Once they know what the trick is, and it's not a hard trick, you just pat him on the back and tell him he's a genius and give him nothing but good news, then you can manipulate him. Stephen Miller does it, of course, but so does everybody else. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz. They all do it. They're all part of this problem. If NATO fails, the EU will take over as the next power. I heard talk from Professor Sarah Payne from the Naval War College. The United States' time leading the free Western world is over. She predicted Europe will be the next power. And why not? They take care of their people. I agree with you. Europe is not going to let this stand. NATO goes by the wayside, which is what Donald Trump wants to do. And the reason he wants it to do that is because he wants to placate his buddy, his girlfriend, Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin's not in NATO for obvious reasons. NATO is basically put into play to protect everybody from Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin doesn't like NATO for that reason, so Donald Trump wants to help him by wrecking NATO. I don't think it's going to work. If not NATO, there will be some other group of countries that will do the same thing. Donald Trump, again, I'll remind you, no matter what he's trying to do, the one thing you can be assured of, he will fuck it up. He will make a mistake. The buck used to stop at the president. Now it's in his pocket. Yeah, everything's a fucking grift. Everything is to make money for him. Stuart Cohen, that's what I said. All MAGA culpable for all chaos, voting for Trump 3 times. If you voted for Trump 3 times, I hope your life is hell. I hope you struggle. I hope you suffer. And if you're looking for empathy or sympathy, you ain't getting it from me. I hope you suffer. Jose says this is going to be something to be remembered in history next to Kent State. Kent State, George Floyd, it's going to be remembered, and they aren't going to be able to gaslight their way around this. Trump's minions think they have pleased the big guy. Yeah. You know what we need right now this week? Because of all this distraction, we need more Epstein files coming out this week. It's only going to take one picture, one document that will destroy and take down Donald Trump. You know the estate has it. You know the oversight committee may have it. You know the files have it. Whether we'll see the files or not, I've always said we won't see the files till Donald Trump is gone. I still believe that. We've only seen what they want us to see. We need one picture, one video, one document to take down Donald Trump, and that needs to come soon. M. Hope says many posts from around the world saying death to the U.S. And you know what? I get it. I get it. People in other countries hate the United States. And I don't blame them, unfortunately. People want to say we're the greatest country in the world. You just take a look around, see what's happening. We're not the greatest country in the world right now. And the one man responsible for that, Donald Dumbass Trump. John says the guardrails only hold up if we uphold them. Yeah, that's one thing Donald Trump proved to a lot of people, that all these guardrails and norms, they're weak. Our Congress is weak. You subpoena people and they say, I don't want to come. You go to court. It gets appealed. It gets appealed. Then the Supreme Court lets them go. We've got a lot of holes in this government and our judicial system, and that has to be shored up if anybody is ever going to trust it again. Michigan Fire says this is an inflection point. Wake up, America. We, the people, need to step up now more than ever. I think you're right. It is an inflection point. Very poignant. And we have this woman shot in cold blood. There is no question about it. And this is going to cause an uproar. I know a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be like George Floyd and there's going to be rioting in the streets. I doubt that. That was a different issue. That was a Minneapolis cop. That was a black man. There were some racial parts of it. There were some protests. And then largely what happened as far as the violence and the destruction, it was all agitated by right-wing pieces of shit that infiltrated, started breaking windows. You think I'm lying? Look at the guy who helped to burn down the 3rd Precinct in Minneapolis. Right-wing guy, not a liberal, a right-wing guy. Tina says, yes, changes will happen. We'll make so many more guardrails. We need to make laws. Fuck the guardrails. If we get a bad person, whether they be Democrat or Republican, the guardrails don't mean shit. We need laws, and we need hard and fast rules and laws that nobody can step over without some kind of accountability. Hoping to see and hear Dems jumping up and down in Congress tomorrow morning. Yeah, you would hope so. I hope so. I've been sorely disappointed by the Democrats. Not all of them. Many of them are vocal. A lot of them, like Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer, Pelosi, they're there just to make money for themselves. They don't give a fuck about the people. We need people that give a fuck to be representing us. So as much as we need to take down and eradicate every Republican that's running for office in 2026, we also need to rid ourselves of the worthless fucking Democrats, because there are some of those too. M. Hope says we were all wrong about the repugs. Please expand on that. I'm not sure what you mean. Tucker Carlson said we should just invade Canada. Yeah, you try that. See what happens. Tucker Carlson's an idiot. He's not right or left. He does whatever he has to do to make money. That's what he does. He's a fucking grifter himself. It's upsetting to see that Machado seems willing to bend a knee for Trump. I respect her for her fight, but for real democracy in her country, but not for a reason for her to just attain power in the country. I'll be honest with you at this point. I was talking to Richard Green earlier, and he was talking about Israel, and he was talking about Venezuela. I don't give a fuck about any of those places right now. I don't. Because we can't be in a position to tell anybody anything or help anybody with anything until we're healthy. And we're deathly ill at this point. I don't want to sound like an isolationist. I don't want to talk about being like America first, but we got fucking dumpster fire after dumpster fire. Before we can do any good for anybody else, we got to fix this shit. I don't want to be distracted by Venezuela or Israel or anything else. We got our own shit. We need to fix it. Mark says, I hope whoever wins the election rips the all the shit he puts up, including his ballroom, and kick them all out of the country. Um, I think we should form another group, ICE agents, like ICE agents, and track down Trumplefucks when this is all said and done. I don't know how it fucking feels. The other thing you need to know about Donald Trump, everything Donald Trump has done with is an executive order. When there is a new president, all they have to do, sign some things, and all those executive orders end. They're done. They're over. So nothing Donald Trump has done is really of any substance. It's just noise, but it's deadly noise. Michigan Fire says if you voted for this fucker after January 6, 2021, you are responsible. Yeah, you're responsible for the deaths. You're responsible for uh, the constant hiding and protecting of this country's most heinous pedophile. I can only imagine that you align with them in every way, and you are despicable, the scum of the fucking earth. Republicans voted no today in a vote to subpoena all info and videos from the Minnesota murder today. Well, of course they did. It looked bad for them. Feds can do whatever they want. Watch what Minnesota does. This stuff will come to light. If nothing else, the information will come out. There is a difference between what this country needs and a future leader, statesman versus politician. Statesmen care about the next generation and the care for their citizens. Politicians care about the next election. What's sad is the Democrats are short of statesmen. I would agree completely. There is a difference between statesman and politician. We got too many fucking politicians on the Democratic side. Michigan Fire says, thanks for all your intelligent insight, Rational Boomer. You're a light in this darkness. Well, I appreciate that. I'm just a guy in my living room talking shit. What I do, what I say has no value without all you people out there, whether it be on TikTok, YouTube, Substack, wherever it is. Without people coming together, talking about the same things, that's what gives us power. I'm just a guy. All of us together are a force. Vincent says the Conservative Party of Canada, Socialism Canada has it. Socialism Canada has its care for people, and socialism pays for PP housing and other stuff. Yeah, they always talk about socialism as if it's a bad word. Socialism has been a part of this country for many years. Socialism is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Socialism is fire departments, libraries, police departments. That's all socialism. So don't tell me you don't like socialism because it's bullshit. All right. John says, I really don't believe he's being told the truth or has passed into senility. They are hiding to keep the power. I agree with you. Donald Trump is oblivious. He's dumb. There's no question about it. He's dumb. He is being fed the wrong information. That's why when he says polling is great, he believes it because he wants to believe it. And that's what the people are telling him. It's all bullshit. We've got an incompetent, diminished motherfucker as president, and that's a problem. And the Republicans don't mind because they get to maintain power. That's all they care about. Jill says, exactly. Never forget George Floyd. I get in arguments to this very day about George Floyd. Well, he was a criminal. Okay. So all the J6ers were criminals. Should we take them in the streets of their respective cities and choke them to death? Should we do that? I mean, I'd be up for it. I'd be happy to watch that. But that's the point. There are laws. There's rule of law. There's habeas corpus. And Donald Trump has pretty much laid that bare, and it doesn't matter anymore. Lady B says, I'm watching the protest march in Minnesota right now. We'll all be out here on the 20th and a few protests before that. The Ice Goons that shot Renee Good hopefully pays dearly. His name is Steven, and he lives in Minnesota. Oh, interesting. Love all that info you share. Thanks, Boomer. Beth from Chicago. Well, the guy's name is Steven. He's from Minnesota. That's disappointing. We have a picture of his face. Need to find the motherfucker and make his life miserable. I'm sorry to say that, but I don't think the judicial system will do anything to punish him. So we, the people, have to make him accountable. Spacer says, I don't think Trump makes it to at least this summer. Some big shit is about to take place, maybe even as soon as by the end of the month. I agree with you. I get the feeling sometimes he's like a cockroach. He seems to get through all this bullshit. I'm looking forward to the time when he is no more. And the Republicans are going to be absolutely appalled by how joyous and jubilant this country is when that motherfucker is done. All right. New post, Epstein document described children being held in horse stalls. Yeah, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on out here. There's a lot of things that have already been released in the Epstein files. Should be enough to put an end to Donald Trump. But again, as I've said, as long as we have the Republicans in control and they continue to be cowards, what's going to be done? So we have to destroy him in terms of his reputation. And I say that with very loosely, but we've got to take him down mentally. If he's cornered, he will spiral even more. And that's what we've got to focus on. There is no explicit law that the president is immune from prosecution. It's all based on an opinion of the Attorney General of the DOJ. You're absolutely right about that. And as long as Pam Bondi is the Attorney General, we're going to see all the same shit. Donald Trump will get away with anything. Pam Bondi will make an excuse for him. But I want you to remember something. Pam Bondi has no immunity. Pam Bondi is covering up the Epstein files as much as everything else. Pam Bondi can be prosecuted. When she is no longer the Attorney General and Donald Trump is no longer the president, she can be prosecuted. And there is precedence for it. If you remember back in the Watergate days, John Mitchell was Donald Trump's Attorney General. That motherfucker got sent to jail, and he didn't do half as much as what Pam Bondi has. So we may get to see a great trial and a great accountability for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, all the dumb motherfuckers. James says the United States has never been the greatest country in the world. That's a statement they've been using to brainwash the people. Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. We've always had our problems. It's just that dumbass Donnie Trump is such a bull in a china shop. He's exposing it all. Stuff that would be undercover, under the radar before. We've had grift. We've had corruption. We've had violence. We just didn't hear about it as much because we didn't have a dumb motherfucker like Donald Trump as president. Trevor says, I don't trust Jeffries anymore. Absolutely not. Or Chuck Schumer. Free, they got to go. Dem Hope that That was earlier when you were saying you were wrong. We're all wrong. As a country, we're all wrong. Absolutely. We have to take responsibility for it. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but this country did, and I'm part of this country, and you're part of this country, and we've got to take responsibility. Absolutely. Now, why is it you can't go to work at the corner store if you have a felony, but you can be president of the United States? That's absolutely correct. Why indeed? Specifically, the reason why he can be president even though he's a felon is because the Constitution doesn't suggest that he can't. It doesn't say felons can't be president. If it was in the Constitution, he wouldn't be president. The reason it's not in the Constitution is because our forefathers never foresaw the idea that we'd actually elect a criminal. That's stupid, but that's the reason. I am hopes that okay, moving on. Spacer says Denise was right though. Denise is the history mom, and she was on the show today or yesterday. MAGA's tearing itself apart. The Turning Point Chuck E. Cheese party taught us a lot about how they are fighting amongst themselves. And, that's always the way it goes. They tear each other down. Trouble is, they make a mess and they hurt all of us in the process. But you're right. They are tearing each other apart and they will take each other out. Trump was mad about his architect and he fired him. Yeah, that ballroom's never going to get built. Again, Donald Trump always fucks up. Always fucks up. Machado, who is the opposition leader in Venezuela, is extremely right wing. You're right, it's none of our business. If we stop bombing them, Venezuelan journalists have reported we will turn Latin America into the Middle East. Yeah, I can't disagree with that either. Anna says he's destroying us from the inside out and outside in. That is true. I think Khrushchev once said of Russia, he said, we will take America down, but not from the outside and from the inside. It's exactly what's happening. It's also important to note that Donald Trump is best girlfriends with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has a dope, has a rube, has a mark that he's using to destroy the inside of this country. There's no question about that. Everything he does is to appease Vladimir Putin. But you're right, inside and out. Lady B says, I love the Minnesota mayor, and I really like Governor Walz. They give him shit just like Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson. Beth from Chicago. This is what we need. We need politicians who will stand up to Donald Trump and spit in his fucking eye. You want to know who's going to be the nominee for the presidency in 2028? It's going to be the man or woman who says, fuck off, I'm coming to get you, and when you're gone, we're going to chase you down. That's what's going to happen. That's what we're going to need to have happen if we're going to have a successful candidate in 2028. And somebody else brought up another potential candidate, and I'm starting to feel pretty strong about this guy now. I'd thought about him before, and I thought, well, he didn't come off with a lot of personality. But Mark Kelly from Arizona. Donald Trump's going after Mark Kelly. He's the epitome of a hero, a war hero, an astronaut. Wife was shot in an assassination attempt. And he ain't taking any shit. Don't be surprised we see Mark Kelly in the running for the nomination whenever we get to that point. Spacer says, I think we should take a moment, though. Again, hope is not lost as long as we retain the community and others of rational thought will win in the end. Thank you, Mike, for keeping hope alive. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I appreciate, the acknowledgement. But I was talking to Richard Green, and he says, you always give people hope. I said, I do, because I know there's always hope. He says, how do you know that? I said, well, I'm 65 years old. I've gone through every trial, tribulation, tragedy, I've been through shit that I didn't think I'd get through, yet I'm still here. I've lived long enough in this country when we've gone through eras of tribulation and turbulence, like the '60s and like the Watergate years and the Vietnam and all that stuff. We always made it through. We will always make it through. And to be honest with you, what's going on now may be a big reason why things go more progressive in 2028. Maybe actually get universal health care. Maybe actually get some help for the middle class for once. It's unfortunate we have to go through a catastrophe to do that, but if that's what it takes, at least we've got that in the offing. Eric says Trump definitely isn't being told the truth. Yeah, there's no question that. They don't want to make daddy mad, so they tell him whatever the fuck they think will make him happy or that he wants to hear. You're absolutely right. Donald Trump is not in the fucking loop when it comes to this country or the government. Expat in Korea on the outside looking in. I'm on your side, man. Well, CJ, I appreciate that. And I was just telling somebody today, this isn't about Republican and Democrat. This isn't about liberal or conservative. This is about right or wrong. When I say right, I mean correct. You're either on the right side or you're on the wrong side. You're on the wrong side, own it, and expect consequences. I don't even care right now who's Republican and who's Democrat. I just want people on the right side of history, the right side of law, and the right side that wants to protect and cultivate the people in this country that are the backbone. I'm talking about the middle class and the poor folks. Jose says we need to call out a general strike, paralyze the country until the orange herd is out of office. That would be a wonderful thing to do. I don't know if it can be pulled off. People have talked about trying it before, and it really didn't have much effect. It's a tough situation because you're asking a lot of people who don't have much to risk to take a big risk, lose out on pay, not do the things they have to do. It's a tough thing to ask a great amount of people to do, and the expectation that a great amount of people would do it is just not reasonable. It's not going to happen. I would love for it to happen. It only need to go for a week, but I just don't think you're going to get people on board. Spacer, this Steve made immigrants scared to leave their house, make him scared to step outside. I heard a story from my wife. She works for somebody who has a husband who is a citizen currently. He was an immigrant, but he's a citizen. While all this has been going on, he's just not leaving the house. Thankfully, he works from home, but he's afraid to go out of the house. This should not be happening in the United States of America. No way this should be fucking happening. It's ridiculous. OKGT Sue also makes you think why they had dental care set up on Epstein's Island, taking care of their need. Yuck. Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit that's going to come out about Epstein. I don't think we know the half of the shit that went on there, and it's going to be appalling. Michigan Fire, we have a lot of work to do after this regime is no more. Yeah, we got a lot. They've ransacked this country financially, culturally, emotionally. And Democrats are going to have to understand something. You can't elect a Democratic president and Democratic Congress and think they're going to wrap this up and fix it in 4 years. We'll get back on track. Things will get better. But it's going to take a couple of Democratic presidents to probably fix this whole situation. So as much as we want things fixed, you better be ready to be fucking patient. Check out the Election Truth Alliance. Trump didn't win. They cheated. Yeah, I've heard that. People said, what about he cheated? Even if they proved he cheated, what are they going to do? Kick him out of office? That's not what the Constitution suggests. All that can do is affect the next election. And granted, we should affect the next election, but it was never going to get Donald Trump kicked out. If no one's willing to do anything about it, doesn't matter what the law is, clearly with Donald Trump. Um, 13-year-old Katie Johnson was raped by the Orange Turd. He liked a fantasy rape scenario, sick dick. Yeah, that's one story I hope is not true, but I'm terrified that it is. That needs to get out there more. That's been around since 2016, but clearly Donald Trump intimidated her, threatened her, or whatever, and she went away for a while. But it happened, according to her. There is a lawsuit. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, co-defendants in that lawsuit. And it needs to be discussed and it needs to be exposed. At the very least, it needs to be investigated. My question is, why wasn't it investigated? Um, Incandescent light. Geez, I'm late to the party. Holy shit, this year is already insane. How is Minnesota holding up? I imagine you already talked about the ice situation, so I'll rewatch this in the morning on YouTube. Yeah, we talked about it, but we're still kind of talking about it. How is Minnesota holding up? I think a lot of people think it's going to be like George Floyd revisited, riots. And you have to understand the violence and the destruction that happened in Minneapolis during the George Floyd period. A lot of it was right wing instigators. That's been proven. The person who burned down the third precinct police station in Minneapolis, the guy went to jail for it was a right winger. So don't tell me it was crazy Democrats. They went in there and tried to create this problem. I don't think you're going to see that here today. People are smarter than that. But here's my problem. Tim Walz came out and he said, don't take the bait, stay calm. If you take the bait, you're just buying into what they want. They want the violence, they want the riots, and then they can invoke insurrection, the Insurrection Act. And that is the right thing to say. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. However, that said, we had a perfectly safe and peaceful protest today, and still somebody got shot. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to fight back? Are we supposed to lay back and just take it until it's over? Neither one of those choices is a good choice. Something needs to be done. And as I've said 100 times, and I'll say 100 times more, somebody could do something about it. Somebody definitely could do something about it. And those are the Republicans in the House and in the Senate. They could stop this tomorrow. They could have stopped it a year ago. They could have stopped it 5 years ago, but they chose not to. So when this is over and Donald Trump is no longer alive, keeping my fingers crossed on that one, remember, who you have to blame is every fucking Republican in Congress. I'm just telling you that. Pete Hegseth has no chance against Mark Kelly. Yeah, that's not going to work. I mean, fuck, it took them 3 times to realize they couldn't indict Letitia James. These are dumb fucks. These are incompetents. They're stupid. Incandescent light, whoever stumps, hold on. Whoever stumps the best in North Carolina and South Carolina will get the presidency in 2028. Couldn't hurt to win North Carolina and South Carolina. I don't know if that's the deciding factor as who gets to be president. I mean, if you get a state like Texas or Florida to flip, you're going to win. We don't know what's going on. We've got to keep the messaging up. We've got to keep talking. We got to keep pushing back, and we got to do it for the next year to get to the midterms. And then we can't let up until 2028. And then once we get to 2028 and the Democrats get in power, we need to start on the Democrats. Start getting these lazy fucking establishment Democrats and get them out too. The fight's going to be a long one, and you got to be prepared for it. And you got to be able to say, Republicans are the big problem now, but we have some problems in the Democratic Party, and we got to keep fighting just as strong. Michigan Fire says, read The Power of the Powerless by Václav Havel. If you haven't, very interesting and relevant. I'll check that out. James, I wish a reporter would call Trump out when he claims his policies have made billions and trillions. So why is universal health care an issue? That's a good point. The other question is, if the Epstein files are a hoax, why are they redacted? It makes no sense. I've said this before. One of the reasons we're in the situation we are and we have as much division as we do is because of the media. In 2015, if a reporter sat across from Donald Trump, asked him a question, he refused to answer or he bullshitted, if you call him out on it and keep calling him out on it, he would have never been president of the United States. Unfortunately, the media doesn't give a fuck about the country or the people in the country. They care about money. And Donald Trump was good television because he was a shit show. We watch different media now. We get different stories from all media. I can sit with a Trump-a-fuck, give him a point of view, and he won't know what it is because he didn't hear about it in Fox. This media culture, mainstream media, has divided this country. They are as much responsible for the problems we have today as the Republicans. When will there be the next Substack Live with a guest? I can do it anytime, really. Um, I don't know specifically, but I can ask some of the guests if they want to come on and be involved. It's always great to have Will or Eric or somebody on. I got home late and I just sat down and did this. Otherwise, I might have had a guest with me tonight, but I was just a little fired up about what's going on and what I've seen. I'll do another Substack with a guest. I like those better too. I can talk for a while, but I'm not as entertaining as some of these other people, so it's good to have them helping. Bren says, repeat of George Floyd on the streets. It is. The only difference, Bren, and sadly, this will make a difference. It was a white woman. It wasn't a woman of color. It wasn't an immigrant. It was a white woman. That's what's going to cause the stir. And that's sad to say, but it's fucking true. M. Hope says on January 20th, 26, Google strikes and protests, they are popping up. 50501 organization and others. Well, we'll be looking. I'd like to hear more about that. Please send me info about that because I'm not as familiar with it. Minnesota, make Steve Grove shit his pants or worse. Lady, are we sure that's his name? It wouldn't surprise me if they've already got it. They got a picture of his face. I don't want to call people out on somebody unless I know for sure it's him. But if it is, God help him. It won't go well for him. I was aware of the right-wing instigators with the George Floyd time. I'm at a loss for what to do now without the Republicans growing some integrity. They did this. You're absolutely right. The pettiness of Trump denying water to Colorado. Washington State experienced a flooding disaster and was refused aid. I'm really confused why Mike Johnson keeps saying the Republicans are making inroads in the blue strongholds. Is he being fed bad information? They are seeing the up-and-coming election through rose-colored glasses. I have this argument with people, and maybe I'm giving Republicans too much credit. I talked to people like Eric and Will, and I talked to Richard Green today, and I said, do they really believe they're winning? Do they think they're doing well? And they all told me, I think they do. They bought into the cult. They think they do. I give them more credit because any idiot can see this is costing them immensely in terms of elections, and that they're just at a point where they know they're going to lose, so they're just going to lie and try to gaslight. I don't know which it is, but it's fucked up either way. Michael Catlett says if Trump was impeached and removed after the insurrection, none of this would have happened. You're absolutely right. And you know who you have to thank for it? Republicans. Mitch McConnell specifically. That Republican Senate, that session of Congress, they are largely responsible, too, for the problems we have today. There is no question in it. Dems need to primary anyone who isn't progressive, like Bernie progressive, swing that pendulum so hard it will break off and never swing back. I tend to agree. I tend to agree. When we've swung this far right, it's a natural thing that we would go more left. And I'm hoping that's the case. I hope that will come to pass. Lady B says, try and get Kristen on again. I miss her. I have tried to get her on, and I miss her too. She's going through some things. I don't know exactly what's going on, but she says as soon as she's ready and able, she'll contact me and she will be on the show. I miss her too. I think she's fantastic. I love talking to her. She's a wonderful lady. She's a smart lady. She has some great insights, and I am anxious to get her back on the show, and I will just as soon as possible. But if she's got some things to deal with, I'm not going to bug her about it. I think she'd be happy to know that that people are asking about her, and they are. It's not just you. I've had a lot of people ask me about that, and we'll do our best to try to get her back on, but not till she's ready to come on. This Kat Abba-Ghazala, running in Chicago's congressional district, reporter editor, her Democratic primary opponent was endorsed by, hold on, by the Democratic leaving the Senate seat and retiring. But the thing is that the endorsement doesn't carry as much weight as they used to. People are tired of the status quo. I agree. The endorsements, especially who they come from, don't mean shit anymore. Nobody trusts anybody. Lady BC says, I sent all the info to your phone, text. Well, Lady B, you sent it. Okay, I have two texts. Some people I know very well text me to my actual phone. And then I have a text service where people can ask questions and stuff. I assume that's where you sent it. I appreciate that. I'll take a look at it. Spacer, the Lindsey Graham press conference on Air Force One with Trump proves they think they are winning. Stephen Miller thinks they are winning. And like you said, maybe they are feeding him bad information, and maybe they believe it themselves. I kind of hope they do, because they are going to get blindsided. And the only thing better than these motherfuckers losing is getting blindsided in the process. It'll be hilarious. Brenda says, I live in a country where the majority think they are winning, makes so much frustrated at much Kool-Aid they have drank. Yeah. Well, it's not the majority. That's always the misinformation. The silent majority, the majority. They aren't in the majority. They're in the minority. The independents and the more reasonable-minded Republicans just vote Republican because they can't vote Democrat. What I'm thinking is that come the next elections, some Republicans can't stomach voting for Democrats, so they just won't vote, and I'm cool with that. Spacer says also Francesca Hong in Wisconsin is a good contender in the Wisconsin governor race to replace Tony Evers. James, how is Old Soul doing? I haven't heard from her since she came back from Japan. Well, she was on the show one time since she's been back, and she's doing great. It's one thing you can count on with Old Soul. She will always be doing great. She had kind of a health scare. I believe she's gotten that taken care of, and she's doing pretty well at this point. So that's good to hear. I talked to her early this week. I said, I need to get you back on the show whenever you're ready. I'm going to text her tomorrow and see when she's ready, and we'll get her back on. Absolutely. It's nice when I have Will and Old Soul on. Being a dyed-in-the-wool lazy bastard, when I have them on the air, I barely have to talk. I don't have to say a fucking word because they have so much to say and so much information. I just sit back and say, "What about this? What about?" And they go forever, and it's great. It's a nice break for me, and it's incredibly valuable for the people listening because they love what they have to say. All right, I've been talking for about an hour. I'm going to wrap things up. I'll do another live soon. I'll bring a guest on. Maybe I can even bring Old Soul on. Spacer says if Substack allowed for multiple guests like TikTok. Yeah, that's the only reason I like TikTok is because I can do it like a call-in show. Instead of you asking me questions in the comments, you can come up and voice them yourselves. I do like that. Now, somebody told me I could do multiple guests on YouTube. I don't know how to do that as yet. And I have my other issues with YouTube because it takes so long for it to render down. But I'll do more Substacks and I will have guests on because they're incredibly valuable, getting information out and perspectives out. For those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.